Alright. Welcome back to the Gaming Emporium. I am Auggro. We are going to be taking a look at UFC 4, UFC 5, compare the two side by side, talk differences, and overall thoughts on UFC 5 as a whole. So let's get right into it. If you guys are a huge fan like me, we've got Yuri Prochazka and Alex Pereira coming up this Saturday. So we are nearing the fight card. Also Tom Aspinall, Sergey Pavlovich. Those are our headliners. I'm very excited about the fights, so I figured why not look at their character models in UFC 5. I think they look great, guys. I really do. You can tell, like, the corner, for instance, and the crowd, like, the graphics on them, of course, aren't necessarily any better. But as far as the canvas, as far as the overall surrounding lighting of the event, everything looks much more real now, which I love. And I don't know about you guys, and I don't know how many people have actually already tried out UFC 5, but the movement is definitely a little different. Not as speedy as UFC 4, but almost more fluid in ways. More realistic for sure. We'll get into that a little bit later, but UFC 4 essentially had a lot of moments in games where the physics behind the striking you could tell was off, and it's almost like it was because it was too speedy. So although I do like the speed of UFC 4 striking, I did not like the realism or the fluidity of it. It seemed almost too fast for the character models to keep up with. Now also I'll say, in UFC 5, you're not as challenged, or I guess as defeated when you know, move your head or maybe get caught coming in on a strike. It's not as hurtful, right? And so a lot of times I would find myself making one wrong move in UFC 4, and that's it, the fight's over. Now, although that is MMA as a whole and just combat sports as a whole, I do like that they give you a little bit more leniency in this game to make those mistakes without having the fight completely stop. You can see there, I got hurt because of a bad movement, but I didn't get completely knocked out, right? And I like that. So let's switch over to side by side here. We're going to be using Cheeto and Suga. I'm Suga in these exchanges. Now we are on legendary difficulty here as well, so keep that in mind. Depending on the difficulty level, the striking and the gameplay may look a little different. But you can see here, hopefully, UFC 4, it is faster. It is faster. But the striking overall is more realistic in UFC 5. I definitely think that. And I love the new looks, man. You got Suga with the pink and blonde. Wasn't a huge fan of the rainbow hair. Just too many colors, you know. And Cheeto says that he gets a tattoo after every fight, apparently. And you can see the character models here. It does look like he may have a few more tattoos under his belt, specifically on his legs there. And I think maybe even the neck, the left side of the neck might be a little different. So it's cool that they got those updated. So overall, striking, I give a plus to UFC 5, although I do love the speed of UFC 4. There's nothing like hitting somebody with a 3 or 4 piece combo in UFC 4 because it was just lightning fast, depending on who you're using, of course. Now also, in UFC 4 you had to pay for additional fighters, and they did not have alter egos. So in UFC 5 they have introduced alter egos for some specific fighters, mostly the more popular fighters: Alex Pereira, Sugar Sean O'Malley, John Jones, Israel Adesanya. What I've found, though, is those alter egos actually may potentially need to be purchased along with purchasing these additional fighters like Muhammad Ali and all of that. Not a huge fan of that, although I will say it looks like some, if not all, alter egos can be unlocked in the game through doing different challenges, specifically Fight Week, which they are bringing back from UFC 3. We'll talk about at the end of this video. And you can see here on the right, I really like the animations of the finish. They have a few different varieties as well to mix it up. Sometimes, depending on the fight, they might kind of almost black out everything around you so that it's hyper focused on just you and your opponent and watching that slow motion replay. But you can see on the left here on UFC 4, I don't know about you guys, but it doesn't look as fluid or realistic to me when it comes to the finishes. And the slow motion that you guys see definitely enhances the fact that some of the physics are off on the character models. And I hate that as well. So they've fixed that. Also, finishes in UFC 4, sometimes you would be behind a bad camera angle. That is all gone in UFC 5. Doesn't matter where you're at in the cage, you will never have an issue of seeing the finish when they slow it down. So I love that. And here, guys, we're basically comparing the two walkouts. Now, on the left, you have Ilia Topuria, you have Alexander Volkanovski. On the right, Islam versus Charles Oliveira. You can see, though, that not only are the graphics better, the lighting in the arena is better. Everything definitely looks more real, but also it's a more drawn-out walkout. And, in my opinion, captures the actual walkouts in real UFC events much, much better. They take them coming out of the tunnel all the way to the ring, octagon, oops. So yeah, I absolutely love that. You can see the lighting around the octagon is there as well, which is not there in UFC 4. So again, if you guys are after realism, if you guys are after updated rosters, you know, new character models, this is the game for you. If you're just looking for a fun striking game that has some of your favorite fighters and maybe more of just a casual MMA fan, it may not be worth the upgrade, of course, but I definitely think that you guys would enjoy it just that much more than UFC 4. So overall, as you can kind of tell, definitely leaning towards UFC 5 as a big fight fan here. But I absolutely love the new walkouts. You can see Charles in there just getting ready, right? Punching around. So it really is good. And they have the signature kind of walkout or moves when you get into the octagon. I think it's much more real as well. You can see UFC 4, they kind of just bounce around, kind of do the same things. So, you know, again, added a few elements.
A mixed martial artist holding a professional record of 25 wins, 2 losses. He stands 5 feet 6
Bruce Buffer still doesn't look great, right? Herb Dean looks about the same. But man, look at the surrounding lighting and the lighting around the octagon. I love that. Much more real. Doesn't break the immersion, right? Fighting out of Houston, Texas. What? That's out of Brazil, my boy. Alright, guys, so what we're going to get into next here is the grappling differences. Biggest differences in grappling is, you know, EA has mentioned that they have simplified the grappling exchanges and taken away the mini-game submission, which I was a massive hater of. I absolutely hate it. Not just because I sucked at it, but because it breaks immersion. It takes you out of the fight. But you can see here on the left stick, you will either go up on UFC 5 for get up, left for submit, or right on the left stick for ground and pound positions. Now, this can be changed to the more classic advanced version found in UFC 4 if you like that. But the minigame is gone. And as you can see, Ilya is about to tap me out easily here, because as soon as they get a hold of that little blue bar, it's game over if they have really high grappling skills. Now, obviously, Charles Oliveira is going to have a lot of defensive grappling. So does Islam. They're both great on offense as far as grappling is concerned as well. But again, it's all about position, stamina, and less about skills. And I do like that. It adds an element of luck to it, and it feels more real, right? You don't have to necessarily be the most skilled opponent. If you have your opponent in a tough position where they don't have stamina, you can still submit them. You don't have to worry about them just being at a higher level than you. And I do think that adds an extra element of competitiveness here that is really good. So overall so far, guys, I'd say UFC 4 faster, looser, but because of the looseness, the physics kind of suffer a little bit there. More complex grappling in ground game. Easier for combos for sure. There are a few more fight modes as well. So you have adrenaline and knockout mode in UFC 4 that cannot be found in UFC 5. You can go into settings in UFC 5 and find knockout mode. It is different though. It is not the same. I actually like it a little bit better than UFC 4's version. And then as you guys can see here, we have Fight Week back from UFC 3. Making a return here where you can set your picks up and you can get rewarded for each one of them. So if you think that you have the knowledge and the know-how, you set these picks up and you may be rewarded with in-game currency. Now, one thing I will say, UFC 3, you were actually able to fight these fights out as well. That is not found here in UFC 5. You do have contracts and challenges though. And once you go over to contracts is where you can kind of see a little weird that it's not the fighters actually on the card. These contracts are, it looks like, kind of random. It's nice to still have them, but I would love for them to get back to, hey, go and play these fights out just like you did in UFC 3 and go and not just predict them, but win in the way that you predicted. It makes it a little bit more challenging and fun. So I love that part. But overall, guys, definitely love UFC 5. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Let me know who you think is going to win this weekend, first and foremost. And then also what you guys think of UFC 5 if you have tried it out. So I will be back here soon with another one. Until then, stay classy. Talk to you then.